Brothers and sisters in Christ, fellow redeemed and are risen and are ever living Lord. Our sermon text for this morning was our gospel lesson, Luke chapter 20, verses 27 to 38. What is this all for? What is our life here on this earth all about? Why are we here? These are questions that people have been wrestling with for a long time, aren't they? Philosophers throughout the ages have spent countless hours with those very questions. Why are we here? You know, really it kind of depends on your worldview, your perspective. Whether you're coming at that question from a Christian perspective or a worldly perspective, right? Because in order to answer that question, you have to answer another question. What happens when I die? Is there an afterlife or not? Because that really impacts how we live our lives, doesn't it? To the people out there who say there is no afterlife, there is just nothing, just the grave, suddenly this world and why we are here on this world, it takes on a very different meaning, doesn't it? It's all about getting ahead. It's all about trying to live as full of a life as possible. Trying to stuff as much as you can in the few years that we have here. But of course, for the Christian who does believe in the afterlife, it's a different story, isn't it? You realize that this world and everything that it has to offer isn't the be-all and the end-all of our lives. Today in our text, Jesus gives us comfort. He gives us comfort in knowing that we are the children of the resurrection. That there is an afterlife. That He has something in store for us. And we can look forward to it. Today we're going to look at a couple of questions regarding that fact that we're the children of the resurrection. First of all, what does this mean for us now that we are children of the resurrection? And secondly, what is it going to mean for us later? Jesus, in our text for today, the words that we have recorded from Luke chapter 20, this takes place on the Tuesday of Holy Week. So it's just a few days before Jesus was going to be sentenced to death. And really, this last week, the opposition against Him was perhaps at its strongest. These people really wanted to nail Him on something. They wanted to get Him in trouble. So we see the Sadducees coming up to Jesus. Now, they have this question, right, about the woman who was married to 7 different men, and each of those 7 men died. You start to wonder about the woman, wouldn't you, in that situation? But each of these 7 men, husbands, died. And now they have this question, well, what's going to happen to her when she gets to heaven? Each of these husbands has an equal claim to be her husband. Now, to see what's going on here, we have to kind of read a little bit between the lines. The Sadducees weren't coming up to Jesus because they really were kind of puzzled with this question. They really wanted an answer. They weren't innocently seeking Jesus' wisdom. See, it said earlier in our section that the Sadducees don't believe in the resurrection. That means that they don't believe that there's an afterlife. They believe that this world was it and it was the end. So they weren't really concerned about what would happen in heaven. In fact, they were asking this question to stump Jesus. They were asking this question really to make a mockery of the whole idea that there is an afterlife. They thought that they had finally figured out a way to prove that there is no afterlife with this question. And you can just imagine them going around to all the other Jewish people, the Pharisees who did believe in an afterlife, and asking them this question, and the Pharisees just kind of not knowing an answer, and the Sadducees just thinking that they were so much smarter, so much better off because they were, had this special understanding. Jesus heard this question. He gave it an answer, didn't he? In heaven there will be no marriage. regards to marriage and death, we're going to be like the angels. That's not going to be an issue. So he answered their question directly, and he could have just let it go at that. Couldn't he? He could have walked away and given them their answer and left. But you have to keep in mind, these Sadducees were really mocking the whole idea of the afterlife. They were trying to make fun of it. And Jesus, of course, had the ability to see inside their hearts to know this. So he wasn't going to just leave it at that, was he? It might make people kind of wondering about the afterlife. So he sets them straight on that aspect too. He says, no, but those who are deemed worthy to partake of the next age, they are children of the resurrection. Very clearly, he tells them that no, there will be an afterlife. And it's for those that God deems to be worthy. These Sadducees didn't believe in the afterlife. You know, that's not something that was only particular in that age. There's people today that believe that too. And I'm sure you probably even know some people who believe that this world is it. When we die, nothing is great. Complete nothing. People like that usually tend to live for the things of this world, don't they? This life is all you have, so try to live as much as you can. Now, I think as Christians, we can look at that idea of people who deny that there's an afterlife, and that's not really a big temptation for us to give into that same sin, is it? Because we know that that's not true. But the thing that is kind of a hang-up for Christians, for you and for me,